Understanding the extent of the influence which the Hindutva lobby has on Kulkarni's campaign requires understanding Ramesh Butata. As mentioned, Ramesh Butata is vice president of HSS. He is also the founder of the first HSS chapter in Houston. His cousin-in-law, Vijay Palod, who claims to be the man who discovered Kulkarni, describes seeing a steady stream of RSS workers at Butata's house over the years. And among those appears to be RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat, who, as Palod himself actually told me, has been hosted and stayed at the home of Butata on at least one occasion, if not more. In 2010, Ramesh Butata traveled to an HSS summit in India, where, while wearing the uniform of the RSS, he listened to Mohan Bhagwat declare that India, quote, alone has the capacity to save the world and humanity. In 2011, Butata organized an OFBJP training camp in Houston for activists, which was conducted by the political advisor to the man who was then president of the BJP. In 2014, Butata organized a phone bank in Houston of 700 people who worked, quote, round the clock, making calls, quote, to motivate voters in India to vote for the BJP. Later, when Modi won election, Butata wrote that it was because of Modi's RSS training and claimed that Modi's upbringing and the culture of the RSS meant that critics should revisit the RSS. In 2015, as one of Tulsi Gabbard's top donors over the years, he attended her relatively small wedding in Hawaii, where he was joined by RSS spokesperson turned BJP spokesperson Ram Madhav. In 2019, he, along with his son and his brother-in-law, was a key organizer for the Howdy Modi Rockstar reception in Houston. And Ramesh Butata is also a key organizer and donor and fundraiser for Shri Preston Kulkarni's campaign for Congress. In this campaign, Rameshji has become like my father, Kulkarni said during his first attempt at winning election. According to Butata's cousin-in-law, Ramesh met with community stalwarts, regardless of their party affiliation, to bring their financial power to help Kulkarni. Last year, when Kulkarni launched his second campaign for Congress, Butata, who was described as having a strong emotional bond with the candidate, was one of the major speakers at the event. Along with his time and energy, Butata has poured his treasure into getting Kulkarni elected. In total, along with his immediate family members, he has donated over $50,000 to Kulkarni's campaigns. At least $50,000 more has been donated to Kulkarni's campaign by just 7 other individuals and their families who are known as key executives in Hindutva groups in America. And the extent of Kulkarni's financing by Hindutva groups deserves a far deeper dive. But one thing remains apparent. Butata is pulling the strings of Kulkarni's campaign. Of the 3 RSS-linked candidates who are currently seeking office, neither Rishi Kumar nor Ritesh Tandon in California appear to stand much chance at all of winning. Kulkarni, on the other hand, is in one of the most competitive and closely watched races in the country. As rumors reach me, the Kulkarni, who has had a lengthy career in the Foreign Service, is interested in being assigned to the Foreign Affairs Committee if elected. I can only speculate about what kind of agenda he would adopt on the issue of US-India relations as the Modi regime spreads its fascist wings and implements its Hindutva ideology with increasingly lethal results. As Americans remain deeply concerned about the possibility of foreign interference in our elections by Russia or China, perhaps it's time, or rather well past time, that we begin also considering the issue of RSS interference on behalf of a Hindutva regime in India. As far as the question, one thing I would say is that one should consider that simply because a congressional candidate or any politician takes money from people who have ties to these Hindutva groups does not necessarily mean that that person is being supported by Hindutva, being propped up by them. Anybody can donate to any politician. You, me, any of us can go to their campaign website today and give them money. But when you start to see this long track record where large amounts recurring over multiple campaigns are being given to these people, when you start to see, as in the case of Sri Preston Kulkarni in Houston, that these Hindutva figures, these who are executives, they're not just open or amenable to Hindutva issues, but they're actually executives in organized Hindutva groups in America who have strong connections back to India. When you start to see these figures take center stage in the campaigns of candidates, then it becomes a major cause for concern.
So the question is, how can we get details on donations received by Kulkarni from RSS-connected individuals? Another question, how can we follow the money? Asad Khan says, how can we find how much foreign money from India is being donated to these candidates, and is that legal? So these are the questions. There's more like that as well, if you could address.
Regarding the question of foreign money being donated, that's a good question. In the case of Tulsi Gabbard, actually a number of people who were supporting her very vociferously argued that because there was no record of her receiving foreign donations, because all of the donations that have been called out were donations by American citizens, which you do have to be an American citizen to donate, that therefore the argument that she was being propped up by these Hindutva groups was not valid, that she had these RSS links was not valid, which is of course not the case. But I've never made that allegation about Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not making that allegation currently about Kulkarni. I have no proof that there's any foreign money being put into their campaigns. What there is proof of is that there is a long track record of what appear to be targeted donations, with oftentimes immediate family members all giving maximum amounts at the same time to these candidates. For donations coming from these people who are executives, top leadership in these American Hindutva groups. As far as tracking the RSS affiliated individuals who are giving, that takes digging. That takes a lot of legwork, because you have to know who they are. If you don't know who they are, then they're just random names on a list of donors. In the case of, for instance, Ramesh Butata, he is very clearly identifiable as a top executive in the American song who's deeply tied to RSS BJP back in India, and who was incredibly active with the OFBJP's campaign here in America to support Modi's election. I have already written a short piece about Kulkarni, which was just the outcome of my initial investigation into him, which I intend to continue. And that is available. I'm here to tell the truth. I'm here to explain that this is the case with this candidate. I can't answer what a voter in that district should do. That's up to them and their own personal conscience. As far as the issue of his opponent, Troy Nils, I believe, being a raging Islamophobe, perhaps he is. And as far as the issue of Kulkarni appearing to express positive sentiments towards Muslims, That's true, and I've seen that. Ramesh Buttada himself, the vice president of HSS, has been in America expressing positive sentiments towards Muslims. He's I believe I believe involved in founding and definitely on the board of a local Houston Muslim group. He has been doing things where he's going out of his way to express positive sentiments towards Muslims. But the question is, are those sentiments sincere? Because while he may be doing that, Buttada, not the candidate, but Buttada himself, may be expressing these positive sentiments, he is deeply involved. He's a key person in the American song, and the RSS. The RSS has a stated goal of eliminating Muslims from India, and has acted on that goal multiple times over the past 30 years with these pogroms led by RSS, BJP, VHP, etc., which resulted in the slaughter of thousands and thousands of Muslims, for which there was never any justice. And now we've seen that after, for instance, the 2002 Gujarat pogrom, which Modi oversaw to one degree or another, that the only result was that he rose to higher levels of power, became prime minister of the country. And Ramesh Buttada, Modi owes Ramesh Buttada to an extent a debt of gratitude for his success in getting elected. Buttada was a tireless campaigner over a period of years, organizing the OFBJP to support Modi's election from America, and helping to organize teams that were sent abroad, sent back to India to be boots on the ground to campaign for Modi. And this man has a decades proven track record of supporting the most Islamophobic, and not just Islamophobic, but anti-Christian, anti-Muslim, anti-Sikh, anti-minority, anti-Hindu who disagrees with the RSS. He has a decades-long track record of supporting the group that espouses all of that, and helping them to get power in India. So with this man taking such a central role in Kulkarni's campaign, how can Kulkarni be trusted that his positive sentiments of reaching out to Muslims are sincere, and not just what any politician does when they're trying to get elected and they're in 21st century America, where they have to at least give lip service to equality, diversity, multiculturalism, and that sort of thing. Whatever candidate, whatever office, whatever their background, whatever affiliations they may or may not have, I think that voters in general, just my perspective is that it would be wise for voters in general to view with skepticism, and understand that the people seeking political power are willing to cynically use as props anybody and everybody for photo ops that help them to obtain that political power. So I would recommend some skepticism.